Well, hello, middle school, and it's good to be back. I know that I'm a few lessons behind. The end of the school year is always crazy for me. There's not enough hours or energy in the day for me to get everything done. When we last left, we'd been looking at Jacob and Esau. And you might remember there were two brothers, and one sold his birthright. Do you remember which one? Oh, that's right. It was Esau who sold it to Jacob. But then Jacob tricked his father into giving it to him. And I told you there would be deceit in that family for a while. Well, let me catch you up to where we are tonight in Genesis 37. Jacob will run off, and he will go to a foreign land on the way. He has a dream, and God lets him know that, yes, he will get the birthright, and it is through him that there will be a special blessing. So the birthright does continue through Jacob, not Esau. And then he goes to meet some of people way off. And while he's there, he falls in love with a woman. But the family deceives him. And instead of being able to marry her, they end up replacing her with her sister. Her name is Leah. The one he loved is Rachel. And due to some laws of those time, Jacob actually ends up with two wives. And it is from those ladies and other things in the story that he has an actually large family. So remember, we'd been looking at Abraham, who was promised that he would be the father of many nations. Well, now finally, after his children and his children's children, and now their children, right, he's going to be that father of many nations. Now, Abraham is gone, but his family lives on. And so Jacob will have 12 sons all together. There will be a daughter and some other things there, but he will have 12 sons. And of those 12 sons, the 11th son is going to be Joseph, and he is excited about that. And then there will be a 12th son that'll come up in the story a little bit later. And so when these things happen, Joseph is considered the favorite. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Maybe you think you know this story. Maybe you say, well, I covered this when I was a little kid, right? Maybe you even made some kind of craft. Well, tonight we're going to look at it through the text and really see, what does the Bible say about this story? So here we go. So, Joseph the dreamer. Now Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph being 17 years old. Now, how old is Joseph in our story? 17. I don't know if you ever noticed that before. Some of you aren't there yet, obviously, being in middle school, but it won't be long before you're 17. 17 is, for many people, their junior year in high school. It could be their senior year, it could be their sophomore year, depending on how their birthday falls, but kind of want to give you an idea of where he is in his life. And he was feeding the flock with his brothers. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. So Joseph is out working with his brothers, and he comes back, and at 17 years old, he tells on them. He tells on them. And basically says they're probably not doing a good job. And this makes his brothers upset. I think sometime when you're younger, we don't tell you that part of the story. We talk about Joseph going out to meet his brothers, and they're very angry with him. Well, maybe now you know why. Because they considered Joseph a tattletale, right? They didn't look on him as somebody that they could trust. Now Israel, that's Jacob, remember he gets a new name, loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. Remember, at this time, Jacob is quite old. He's had lots of kids, and all of a sudden comes Joseph. And so he's at a different place in his life. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors. And now this is an outside coat. This is a coat that's not used for work. It's used to kind of show off a little bit. And so it's not something that you would go out and work the fields in. And so he gives this to Joseph. And remember, the brothers already don't like him. And now they kind of don't like him even more, right? He's daddy's favorite. But when his brothers saw that the father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him. Now, guys, I want you to see that in the story. That hate is going to turn into action. You know, hate doesn't have to turn into action. Hate doesn't have to turn into action. I think we need to remember that. And could not speak peaceably to him. They couldn't even walk by him. When they saw him, they were just disgusted. You know, that's a dangerous thing, right? when sometimes our emotions get the better of us and we can't be at peace with somebody. The Bible is always saying we need to try to be at peace with people. And I know some people make it very hard. And maybe you have to keep your distance from those people, right? Maybe you just don't interact with them. But this is a family. They don't really have that opportunity. And Joseph is then going to have some dreams. And he's going to tell these dreams. And I want you to see them tonight, and it may help you better understand the relationship in this family. So, his brothers don't like him because he's kind of been a tattletale. His brothers don't like him because he's daddy's favorite. And then this happens. Are you in Genesis 37 with me tonight? Now, Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. Wow. Wow. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field." What does that mean? They were gathering grain, and they were tying it up, getting it ready for the harvest. "Then behold, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And indeed your sheaves stood all around, and bowed down to my sheaf." When we were collecting grain, and we were taking up, and we were tying a string around it, and we were setting up in the field, all your sheaves bowed down to mine. Now remember, he's got older brothers. Well, what does that mean? That the older brother is going to bow down to the younger? Are you kidding me? Some of you are the oldest child. And you may say, yeah, I don't think I would like very well my little brother or sister telling me that one day I would bow down to them. Some of you are the youngest child. And if you told that story to your older brother or older sister, they would probably say, well, are you kidding? What kind of dream was that, right? And his brother said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. I want you to see that this hate is building up inside of them. And sadly, they're going to choose a very inappropriate way to let it out. So these are sheaves of grain. Maybe you don't know what a sheaf of grain looks like. It used to go out and harvest grain. You cut it off there at the ground, and you tied it up, and then you took it back to the barn, and you got the heads of the grain out, and that's what you grind and turn into flour and meal to make your bread and the things that you have to make to survive. So he has a dream about this. Maybe you've had a weird dream before. We all kind of have weird dreams, just to let you know. And sometimes they make sense. Sometimes they're a neat story. And sometimes they're people who are in a different place. You know, maybe somebody from church is in your dream, but you're at school, and then y'all go on vacation. I mean, sometimes dreams are odd, right? And so he tells this dream to his brothers, and they say, "Whoa, what are you telling us here?" Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers. And he said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream." Can you imagine their reaction? What do you think their faces look like? I mean, remember, they don't like him already. They've already heard one of his dreams. They don't like it. I wonder what their faces look like. Maybe you can make that face right now, right? "Look, I've dreamed another dream. At this time, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me." So he told it to his father and his brothers. Now he's telling everybody this dream, right? And his father rebuked him. What does that mean? His father said, "Shh, hey, you don't need to be talking like that," right? And said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers," remember, he'll have 11 brothers, "indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" Really, you had a dream that your whole family bows to you? Now, remember, Dad likes him and still doesn't think that this is okay. And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. His brothers continued to let it dwell and to let it simmer. But his father just kind of filed in the back of his head, right? So what was this dream? That the stars were going to bow down to him? That things were going to change? Yeah, imagine this was the dream, right? That this is what it was going to look like. And again, the sun probably representing the father, right? The moon, the mother, and the stars, his other brothers. Well, his brothers don't like him, remember? The sheaves bow down, the stars. Who does he think he is, right? Maybe you know somebody who, when they walk in a room, they act like they made everything, that they're somebody, right? And I don't mean in a confident way. I mean in an overconfident way, right? And so his brothers are beginning to look at him differently. And they can't stop looking at him that way. And remember, they're treasuring this up in their heart. The Bible also says we keep things in our heart that often then come out through our mouth or our actions. And we're going to see what that happens here. So, he has several dreams. I'll let you know. And he later interprets dreams. Okay? He's going to have this set of dreams here with sheaves and stars, right? It's the first two. It's about him. Later, he's going to be put in prison. Yeah, he's going to go to prison. We'll get to that part of the story. And he's going to have two people have a dream, and he's going to have to interpret that dream. And then later, the Pharaoh, the leader of Egypt, has a dream and is looking for somebody to interpret it. And it's Joseph they call on. So dreams kind of play a part in this story. I don't know if you've ever had a dream where you woke up and you wish you could go back to sleep and finish it, right? It was a cool dream or it was a neat dream. Or maybe you've dreamed about somebody who has been gone. Maybe you dreamed about a grandparent and it would have been nice to have seen them again. Or maybe you just had a totally weird dream that you can't even explain, right? Well, Joseph is having dreams and he's curious about it at 17. What do these mean? And later, he's going to use this idea of dreaming as a skill, and he's going to be able to interpret dreams. I don't know that we can really interpret dreams today. You know, a lot of our dreams are just kind of our mind walking down like a big aisle and grabbing a place and people and events and putting them together in a story, and they don't necessarily make a lot of sense. I know a lot of times before I go to bed at night, if I've been watching a television show or I see something on Facebook or maybe I've been talking to somebody about some history thing that day, that often shows up in my mind. All that tells me is that it's in my mind somewhere. It was kind of fresh on my mind and I dreamed about it. But every now and then I dream about something I haven't thought about in a long time. And what does that say? That our brains are incredible. They can store all this stuff. Not just the new stuff teachers teach us every year, but it can store all these memories, right? So, that's where Joseph is in the story. Well, one day his dad is going to come to him and ask him to run an errand. Are you still with me in Genesis 37 in the story? Your brothers are grazing the flock at Shechem. Go and see if all is well with your brothers and the flock and bring me word. He says, go check on your brothers. Maybe some of you occasionally have to watch a brother or sister, right? He says, go check on your brothers and come back and let me know what's going on. So Joseph goes and does what his dad asked. Then his brother went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. A couple things here. Their brothers are out working. Joseph's brothers are out in the field. Joseph is back at home. His dad showing favoritism, right? Is this going to be another problem? So he said, here I am. Then he said, please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks and bring back word to me. So he sent him out to the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. Now a certain man found him, and there he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what are you seeking? So Joseph goes out to Shechem, where his brothers are supposed to be. He runs into this guy, and this guy can tell he's looking for something. Maybe you've seen someone before, and you knew they were looking for something. He says, what are you looking for? So he said, I'm seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they're feeding their flocks. And the man said, they have departed from here. For I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. Now remember, they've already gotten in trouble once before by Joseph, going back and giving Dad a bad report. And now they're supposed to be in Shechem. And for some reason they have left Shechem and they have gone to Dothan. They're not where they're supposed to be. And lo and behold, who comes walking across the field but Brother Joe, right? Now when they saw him afar off, they saw him, and they realized, he didn't come just looking for us by chance. He's been sent here, and we're not where we're supposed to be. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Guys, they had a whole conversation before he got near. There he is, way off in the distance, and they begin to say, hey, we're going to do anything. Let's kill him. Guys, that's what hate can do to somebody. Hate can so poison us that we just want to be done with somebody. The Bible speaks over and over again about loving our enemies, about blessing those who persecute us because that's hard. The natural tendency is to let hate turn into some kind of evil action. Well, let's see what happens in the story. Then they said to one another, look, this dreamer is coming. Can you imagine how they said that? Do you really think they said, oh, it is the dreamer? And no, they probably made fun. Oh, look, the dreamer is, right? You ever make, we kind of make fun of people sometimes. We shouldn't, but come on. We've all been a little sarcastic. We're in middle school, right? Come, therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what would become of his dreams. Oh, yeah, he thinks he's so good. He's Daddy's favorite. He gets the cute little coat. Oh, we'll show him. But Reuben heard it. Now that's one of the older brothers. And he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. Now that kind of makes Reuben sound like a good guy. But there's more to the story. Earlier in the story, parts we haven't covered, Reuben makes his dad really mad. Really mad. And so he has this plan that if he is nice to Joseph, and since Joseph is Dad's favorite, maybe Reuben can be back in good speaking terms with his dad. So be careful when you read this sometimes. It makes Reuben sound like a good guy, but I think there's another motive here, right? And Reuben said, shed no blood, but cast him into a pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. What's Reuben's plan? Yeah, let's put him in a pit. Don't kill him. And then Reuben was going to sneak back later, rescue Joseph, and say, look, Dad, I saved your favorite son. He fell in a pit. Look at how good I am. Let's see how this plays out. Now, Reuben is the oldest. His name means the Lord has surely looked on my affliction. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. When he was born, his mother was concerned about the relationship between her and Jacob. And so she names him this. And so Reuben is trying to make sure he's in good with Dad. So maybe it looked like this, right? Maybe this is the scene, right? Let's kill him. No, let's put him in a pit. I mean, you can imagine. There are a lot of guys standing around trying to figure out what to do. Reuben steps forward, right? Oh, no. But again, what's his motive? So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers. So he doesn't know what he's walking into. You ever walked into a trap, like somebody got you involved in a conversation and you realize they're trying to get you to take a side and you just walked in? So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his tunic. That tells you right now that they do not like, and it's that coat, right? The tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it. So they basically threw him down the well. And they sat down to eat a meal. So they'd just thrown their brother in a hole in the ground. And now they're going to have lunch. Right? Think about what hate can do to us sometimes. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites. Boy, Ishmaelites. That goes back to the Abraham story. I know we didn't talk much about it in this class, but Abraham has a child called Ishmael. These are his descendants, generations later. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh. I think you've heard of myrrh before, right? Maybe it's in another story later. On their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let our hand be upon him. Our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. Judah steps forward. Now he's going to look like a good guy, right? Oh, let's not kill him. Let's sell him. Let's make money off of him. It doesn't do any good for us to kill him. We could sell him as a slave, and we'd all wind up with some money. Now, I don't want to give any of you guys ideas that have brothers and sisters, right? You can't go off selling off your family, but they could. They had such hatred for him. They didn't even care. Now, here's what Judah's name means. Judah's name means, now I will praise the Lord. Well, right now he's not acting very much like he's praising the Lord, is he? It sounds like he's listening to another voice. So poor Joseph. He's been thrown into a pit. His brothers are eating. He's being pulled out of the pit. Was this a joke? Were they, being mean to him? Did they Were they sorry? No, they're going to sell him. They're going to sell him. So they put him in the pit, right? Doesn't have water in it. And his brothers listened. Then the Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. So 20 shekels among the brothers divided, right? And then they took Joseph to Egypt. So their brother's gone. Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit. Here's the thing. Reuben has stepped away for some reason. He doesn't know this has happened. Maybe they weren't even going to cut him in on the money. Right? Less brothers, more money for me. Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes. Now, that was a sign in those times that you were very upset, that you were grieving. And so you might tear your clothes. You know, you didn't have a lot of changes of clothes. I mean, today, maybe if you tear a t-shirt, you don't get that big. Oh, okay, big deal. Tore a shirt, I'll get another one. But back then, clothes took a lot of time to make. They were special. That's why that coat is so important in the story. And so he tears his clothes thinking, oh no, they have killed him. And you also got to remember that later you could sew that back up. But you would always remember what that tear was, right? Why that was there. And so sometime when you wore your clothes, you might wear a story if you think about it on your clothes, right? Oh yeah, I tore this one when someone in my family was really sick and I was sad. Or I tore it here when I learned of the death of somebody. I mean, your clothes can kind of be a story. Then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit. And he tore his clothes, and he returned to his brothers, and he said, the lad is no more. Where shall Reuben's like, uh-oh, I had a chance to get back in good with Dad. The kid's gone. What am I supposed to do now? Now, Dad's just going to take it. I'm the oldest. I'm supposed to be in charge here, and I've lost the son. So here's the selling, right? He sold off to the Ishmaelites, and Joseph is headed to Egypt. So then the brothers come up with a plan. They'll take his coat, and they'll dip it in some blood. That's their plan. And then they'll take it back. Are you ready to see these guys in action? We've already seen them in action, haven't we? So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, a baby goat, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, we have found this. Really? We have found this? We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not? Do you see what the brothers are doing here? They're going to let Dad piece the story together. And we often talk about sins of omission, right? Things that you don't do that you should be doing. And sins of commission, those things that you do commit and you know you commit them. Well, here they're going to let Dad make up a story in his mind, and they're not going to really correct him. Have you ever let someone believe something that was untrue? I mean, you could say, well, I didn't lie. But the way you told the story, it kind of left them with the wrong impression, and they left with a different story than what they should have left with. That's what's going to happen here. The brothers are basically going to lie. But they're not going to do it through commission. It's not like they're going to tell this big story. They're just going to kind of not correct what they know to be true. Are you with me in the story? And he recognized it. Of course he did. He gave it to his son. And he said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. So Dad immediately assumes this coat covered in blood must have been killed by a beast. Now, that's not what most of us think about today, right? You got to remember, these are different times. These people lived differently. There were wild animals that could attack you. Then Jacob tore his clothes. Do you see it? He's in mourning. He will tear that clothes, and later when he sews that up, think about it, that rip will always be the day I heard that my son was killed by wild animals. Now remember, he didn't really hear that. He's piecing that together from the information the brothers are giving him. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him. Now the daughters had no clue at this point. They really think Dad is upset and Joseph is dead. But the brothers play along. You ever played along with a lie? You ever known something not to be true and you just played along with it. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted. And he said, "For I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning." Now, I don't know how the brothers heard that, but their dad is so sad that Joseph is gone. They may even feel like, hey, you're not happy that you still got other kids, Dad. You see, they were so self-centered. They only thought of themselves. Thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, whatever happens to Joseph, right? Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. So Joseph is sold by his own family and is taken to a foreign land. I don't know if you've ever been to a foreign land. I don't know if you know what it's like to be in a place where you don't speak the language. You don't understand the culture. You don't really know what's going on. People are talking about you and money is being exchanged. And the next thing you know, someone else owns you. Guys, that's the experience of slavery. Well, whether it be in biblical times or in our own country's history, that's the experience of slavery. And it still goes on today. Maybe some of you will have the opportunity one day to go to some countries. And maybe you will recognize some things. I know I have traveled quite a bit, and I've been in places where I can kind of tell what it is, right? I mean, when I was in England, very easy, right, to speak English. When I was in France, I could recognize enough of the words, even a little bit in Italy. But I'll tell you what, one time I went to Russia. And Russia does not use the alphabet that you recognize. They use what's called the Cyrillic alphabet. And I'm telling you, I'm riding a subway in Moscow. And I thought to myself, if I get off here, I have no earthly idea what the name of the station is. To me, it was just a jumble of letters and symbols. And I say that because you guys have had world history, a lot of you at this point, in school this year. I know school was different this year. I think you probably covered the Egyptians. You realize Joseph got to a country where they used a bunch of symbols. Hieroglyphics. Remember hieroglyphics? Remember Pharaoh? Yeah, that's the land Joseph goes to. Egypt has this huge history that runs parallel to the Bible. And now you know the Egyptian story. Now we're going to put the Bible story right down beside it. And at times it intersects. It comes together, right? And so I hope when you're in history classes in school and all your classes in school, you realize sometimes you're learning things that, yes, apply very much to the Bible. Maybe you're learning a foreign language. Maybe some of you will go to a foreign country on a mission. And maybe you'll actually use that Spanish that you're taking or some other language that you may have the opportunity to learn. Always be aware that we as Christians have such great opportunities to learn, and God will take those learnings. They're like seeds, remember, planted within us, and they can grow and become things we can't imagine at this time in our life. When I was in middle school, I never knew that I was going to travel to a foreign land. I'd hoped to, I wanted to, I liked history, and now I've been blessed to go to several. There are lots of things that I didn't know. I wonder what Joseph thought his life was going to be like at 17. School's just ended, right? You're already thinking about what next year is going to look like, right? What is 6th grade going to look like? What is 7th grade going to look like? What is 8th grade? I mean, you've kind of got this whole plan in your head. What if that's not God's plan? You think Joseph's plan was, I hope by 17 my brothers hate me, they put me in a pit, and they sell me, and I go to Egypt and become a slave? You think that was his life goals? Well, let's see what God's goals were for him. Let's see where he goes in this story. Will you stick with me the next few weeks while we tell this story together? I'm glad we got to have class again. And again, I do apologize for the last few weeks being behind in lesson. It's just that time of year in my life. And even with us being out of school, I was still meeting with students online, and I had to prepare them for a national test. Well, Joseph is being tested in a different nation. And that's where we're going to pick up the story next week. We're going to be back together. Hopefully, maybe sometime this summer. We're beginning to think about some of those things and dream about some of those things. Did you catch it? Dream about some of those things? I know, that was kind of corny. Until we can, I like to say, I miss you guys. I really do. I enjoy our middle school class on Wednesday nights. I hope that we can come together soon, and we can see each other, and we can laugh and pray together, and just tell what it's been like to be in lockdown. Joseph was in a pit, right, for a while. Well, maybe you kind of feel like you've been trapped for a while. Well, we're going to get out of it. God's going to deliver us. And this is going to be an amazing story for us to study as almost teens or teens together. Guys, God bless you, and have a great night.